Arizona Territory, 1875. The desert sun blazed mercilessly across the rugged landscape, casting long shadows over the small trading post of whispering pines. Dust devils danced between weathered buildings as Logan Xanders dismounted from his chestnut gelding, his lean frame casting a tall shadow across the hard-packed earth. At 25, Logan had already seen more violence and loneliness than most men twice his age, and it had hardened him like leather left too long in the sun. The frontier, he'd learned early, was no place for tenderness. Out here, a man survived by keeping to himself and trusting no one. The Apache Wars had taught him that lesson when he was just 16, watching his family's homestead burn. Now, nearly a decade later, his handsome features remained set in perpetual wariness, his blue eyes constantly scanning for threats beneath the brim of his well-worn Stetson. "Water and grain," Logan told the stable boy, handing over a few coins. "And information, if you've got it." The boy nodded eagerly. "What kind of information you looking for, mister?" "Cattle rustlers. Group of 5 or 6, moving north with about 30 head. Might have passed through here 3 days back." He was a bounty hunter now, a profession that suited his solitary nature. No attachments, no disappointments, just him against the wilderness. It was safer that way. Every time he'd allowed himself to care about something, the frontier had snatched it away with ruthless indifference. As Logan walked toward the trading post, his hand rested instinctively on his Colt. The town seemed peaceful enough, but appearances were deceiving in the territories. 2 Apache men conversed quietly outside the general store, and a weathered sign announced Johnson's Trading Post. "Supplies, post office, telegraph." Logan pushed through the door, the bell announcing his arrival. Inside, the air hung heavy with the scent of tobacco, coffee, and leather goods. Logan nodded curtly to the proprietor and began examining supplies. He needed ammunition, coffee, and hardtack, the basics that kept a man alive in the wilderness. Relationships, family, love, those were luxuries the frontier didn't afford men like him. The door swung open, the bell jingling again, and Logan glanced up instinctively. She entered like a desert sunrise, unexpected and breathtaking. Elena Eagleheart moved with quiet grace across the wooden floorboards, her dark blue calico dress a stark contrast to her copper-brown skin. At 22, she carried herself with a dignified bearing that commanded attention without seeking it. Her raven-black hair was braided simply, falling over one shoulder, and her dark eyes revealed an intelligence that made Logan forget the ammunition he'd been examining. Elena was half Apache, half white, a daughter of 2 worlds and fully belonging to neither. Her mother had been Apache, her father a cavalry officer who defied convention to marry the woman he loved. Both were gone now, leaving Elena to navigate the precarious boundary between settler and native societies alone. "Miss Eagleheart," the shopkeeper greeted her warmly. "Your order came in yesterday. I've got everything packed up for you." "Thank you, Mr. Johnson," she replied, her voice melodious and clear. "I appreciate you sending word so promptly." Logan realized he was staring and forced himself to look away. Women were complications, beautiful ones like her, doubly so. He'd learned to keep his distance, maintain his solitude. It was the only way to survive out here. The shopkeeper brought out a package wrapped in brown paper. "Your books, miss. Came all the way from St. Louis. Must have cost a pretty penny." "Knowledge is worth every cent," she replied with a small smile that transformed her serious expression. When their eyes met briefly across the store, Logan felt something stir within him, something he thought had died years ago in the ashes of his family home. He nodded curtly and turned his attention back to the shelf, silently cursing himself for the momentary weakness. The door banged open again, and this time the temperature in the room seemed to drop. A man Logan recognized all too well swaggered in, Caleb Yates, a fellow bounty hunter with a reputation for brutality that stretched from Texas to Montana. At 26, Yates had a handsome face marred by cruel eyes and a perpetual sneer. Unlike Logan's clean-shaven appearance, Yates sported a carefully trimmed mustache that he believed made him look distinguished. "Well now," Yates drawled, his eyes fixing immediately on Elena, "if it isn't the prettiest half-breed in the territory." Elena's spine stiffened, but she didn't acknowledge him, continuing her business with dignified silence. "I'm talking to you, darling," Yates persisted, stepping closer. "Don't you have any manners?" Logan watched the shopkeeper's expression turn anxious. Clearly, this wasn't the first time Yates had harassed the young woman. "Leave her be, Yates," Logan found himself saying, surprised by his own intervention. "She's not bothering anyone." Yates turned, his eyes narrowing when he recognized Logan Xanders. Didn't know you were appointed guardian of Indian girls. You tracking the same rustlers I am. Different bounties, Logan lied smoothly. He had no intention of sharing information with a man like Yates. Elena gathered her package, nodded thanks to the shopkeeper, and moved toward the door, her head held high despite Yates' leering presence. As she passed Logan, their eyes met briefly, and he saw something in her gaze, not gratitude, but a fierce independence that startled him. She didn't need his protection, but she acknowledged his decency with the slightest nod. After she left, Yates chuckled. That one's a wild filly. Been trying to break her for months now, but she's stubborn. Her mama was Apache royalty, they say daughter of a chief, makes her quite the prize. Logan felt disgust rise in his throat. Women aren't prizes, Yates. Everything's a prize with the right bounty attached, Yates replied, patting his gun belt meaningfully. Just a matter of price. When Logan left the store minutes later, he spotted Elena speaking with an elderly Apache woman near the edge of town. They conversed in rapid Apache, their expressions serious. Logan found himself curious about her story despite his best instincts. He shook his head, reminding himself that curiosity was a luxury a bounty hunter couldn't afford. He had rustlers to track, a bounty to collect, and a solitary life to return to. But as he mounted his horse and rode north out of town, Logan couldn't shake the image of Elena's proud profile from his mind, nor the strange, unwelcome feeling that his carefully constructed beliefs about frontier isolation had just been fundamentally challenged. 3 days later, Logan crouched behind a rocky outcropping, observing the rustlers camp through his spyglass. They had made camp in a small box canyon, clearly feeling secure in their remote location. He counted 5 men, hardened criminals all of them, judging by their watchful postures and well-worn weapons. The stolen cattle grazed nearby in a natural corral formed by the canyon walls. His plan was simple. Wait until nightfall, approach silently, and take them by surprise. 5 against 1 weren't favorable odds, but Logan had faced worse. Besides, these men weren't expecting trouble this far from civilization. As dusk approached, Logan checked his weapons one final time. The Colt revolver at his hip was cleaned and loaded, as was the Winchester rifle slung across his back. He would approach from the eastern ridge, using the setting sun to hide his approach. Just as he prepared to move, movement caught his eye, another rider approaching the canyon from the south. Logan narrowed his eyes, focusing his spyglass. "Damn it all to hell," he muttered as he recognized Caleb Yates' distinctive dun horse. The other bounty hunter had clearly been tracking the same gang. Logan's mind raced. If Yates attacked from the south while he came from the east, they might actually stand better chances, but Yates wasn't the type to share bounties or work with partners. More likely he'd get them both killed with some reckless move. Before Logan could decide on a new approach, another movement caught his attention, a third figure approaching the canyon, this one on foot and moving with remarkable stealth. The figure slipped from shadow to shadow with practiced ease, dressed in dark clothing that blended with the twilight. When the figure paused in a clearing, Logan nearly dropped his spyglass in shock. Elena Eagleheart. She moved like a ghost across the landscape, carrying what appeared to be a rifle wrapped in cloth. Her dark hair was tied back tightly, and she wore men's clothing, practical buckskins that allowed silent movement through the brush. Logan swore under his breath. What was she doing here? The situation had just become infinitely more complicated. Now he had rustlers, Yates, and an unexpected woman to worry about. Keeping low, Logan made his way down the slope, intent on intercepting Elena before she could reach the canyon. Whatever her business here, it couldn't possibly be worth the risk she was taking. He caught up to her in a small grove of juniper trees, reaching out to grasp her arm. Elena reacted instantly, spinning with a knife suddenly in hand, its blade pressing against his throat before recognition dawned in her eyes. "Mr. Xanders," she whispered, lowering the knife but not putting it away. "You should make more noise when approaching someone from behind." "What are you doing here?" Logan demanded quietly, acutely aware of how close they stood in the gathering darkness. "Those men are dangerous." "I know exactly who they are," Elena replied coldly. "Their leader, Marcus Webb, murdered 2 Apache families last month, including my cousin's husband. The law won't touch him because his victims were Apache, so I will deliver justice myself." Logan stared at her in disbelief. "You're planning to take on 5 armed men alone. That's suicide." I was raised by both warriors and soldiers, Mr. Xanders. I know what I'm doing. Her dark eyes flashed with determination. This isn't your concern. It became my concern when Yates showed up. Logan gestured toward the south. He's here too, tracking the same bounty, if he sees you. A flash of worry crossed Elena's face, quickly replaced by resolve. Then I need to finish this before he interferes. Listen to me, Logan insisted, keeping his voice low. I want Webb too for the bounty. Let's work together. Between us, we stand a better chance than separately, and certainly better than you alone. Elena studied him, wariness evident in her posture. Why would you help me? The reward is for Webb alive. I don't need him alive, Logan said simply. Dead or alive, the poster says. I prefer my bounties breathing, but I'm not particular in this case. A distant gunshot interrupted their conversation. Both turned toward the canyon. Yates, Logan muttered, the fool's attacking already. More shots rang out, followed by shouting. The element of surprise was lost. Elena unwrapped her rifle, a cavalry carbine well-maintained despite its age. It seems our time for planning has run out, Mr. Xanders. Logan checked his own weapons. Stay close to me. Webb is mine, but I'll help you get justice for your people. Together they moved toward the canyon, an unlikely alliance formed in the gathering darkness. As they approached, Logan realized with startling clarity that for the first time in years, he was thinking about someone else's safety besides his own. The gunfight was in full chaos when they reached the edge of the canyon. Yates had apparently wounded one of the rustlers, but was pinned down behind a boulder as the remaining 4 returned fire from various positions. The cattle were stampeding around the small canyon, adding to the confusion. Webb is the one behind the wagon, Elena whispered, pointing to a bearded man shouting orders to the others, the one with the red bandana. Logan nodded, formulating a plan. I'll circle around to the right, draw their fire. When they focus on me, take whatever shots you can from here. Elena nodded, her face resolute in the dim light. Be careful, Mr. Xanders. Something in her tone made Logan pause. Logan, he said quietly. My name is Logan. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Be careful, Logan. He moved away, circling through the brush until he reached a position opposite Yates. Taking careful aim with his Winchester, he fired twice, taking down one of the rustlers immediately. The remaining men scattered, now caught in crossfire from 2 directions. Webb bellowed orders, directing one man to focus on Yates while he and the other remaining rustler returned fire toward Logan's position. Bullets whizzed past him, splintering the rock where he took cover. From her position, Elena took careful aim and fired. Her shot was true, striking the rustler aiming at Yates. The man crumpled, giving Yates the opening he needed to advance. The battle intensified, with Webb and his last man retreating toward their horses. Logan realized they were preparing to flee and broke cover, running to cut them off. As he moved, he exposed himself momentarily, just long enough for Webb to take aim. The shot might have found its mark if Elena hadn't fired at that exact moment. Her bullet grazed Webb's arm, throwing off his aim. His shot went wide, missing Logan by inches. Logan didn't waste the opportunity. He fired twice more, taking down Webb's last companion. Webb himself made a desperate dash for his horse, but Logan's next shot caught him in the leg. The rustler leader fell, screaming curses as he clutched his bleeding thigh. It's over, Webb, Logan called out, approaching cautiously with his revolver trained on the wounded man. From the other side of the clearing, Yates emerged, his own gun drawn. I'll take it from here, Xanders, my bounty. Like hell, Logan growled. I brought him down. Webb lay on the ground between them, hatred burning in his eyes as he clutched his bleeding leg. Bounty hunters, he spat. Vultures, the lot of you. Yates stepped closer. I tracked them for 2 weeks. The bounty's mine. We can split it, Logan offered reasonably, though he kept his gun trained on Webb. Equal shares. I don't share, Yates sneered, suddenly swinging his gun toward Logan. Before he could fire, another shot rang out. Yates cried out, dropping his pistol as blood blossomed from his shoulder. Elena stepped from the shadows, her rifle still smoking. Neither do I, she said coldly. Webb used the distraction to reach for a hidden derringer in his boot. Logan spotted the movement and reacted instantly, firing once. The rustler collapsed, a red stain spreading across his chest. For a moment, the canyon was silent except for Yates' pained groaning and the distant lowing of scattered cattle. Elena approached Webb's body, looking down at the man who had murdered her people. Her expression remained impassive, but Logan saw the slight tremor in her hands. "Justice," she said simply. Yates staggered to his feet, clutching his bleeding shoulder. "You shot me, you Apache witch." "Be grateful I aimed for your shoulder," Elena replied calmly. "My father taught me to shoot, and he did not raise me to miss." Logan kept his gun on Yates. "I suggest you ride out while you can, Yates. Take your wound as a lesson about pulling guns on the wrong people." Yates' face contorted with fury. "This isn't over, Xanders." "And you," he glared at Elena, "I won't forget this." "Neither will I," she responded, her rifle still ready. "Now go." They watched as Yates mounted his horse one-handed and rode away, cursing vividly. Once he was gone, Logan turned to Elena. "You saved my life, twice." She lowered her rifle finally. "And you helped me find justice for my family. We are even, I think." Logan looked around at the bodies. "I need to bring proof of Webb for the bounty. Then I should round up these cattle and return them to their owners." "That is a big task for one man," Elena observed. Logan found himself asking, "Would you consider helping?" "I'd split the reward fairly." Elena regarded him thoughtfully. "I have no interest in the reward money, but I will help you with the cattle. I know this country better than most." As they worked to make camp for the night, gathering the scattered cattle into a makeshift corral, Logan felt something unfamiliar, a comfort in another's presence that he had denied himself for years. They worked well together, moving with an unspoken coordination that seemed natural despite their short acquaintance. By the campfire that night, after a simple meal of coffee and jerky, Logan found himself speaking of things he rarely shared: his family's death during an Apache raid years ago, his life as a bounty hunter, the loneliness of the trail. "So you see," he concluded, staring into the flames, "I've had good reason to keep to myself. Out here, connections just mean more to lose." Elena was quiet for a long moment before responding. "My father was stationed at Fort Bowie when he met my mother. She was bringing news to the commander, a warning about raiders from another tribe. He told me he knew the moment he saw her that his life would never be the same." She poked the fire with a stick, sending sparks spiraling into the night sky. "They faced hatred from both sides. The white settlers called my mother a savage, her own people called her a traitor. But they built a life together despite it all. When I was 16, influenza took them both within days of each other." "I'm sorry," Logan said softly. "My point," Elena continued, meeting his eyes across the fire, "is that they could have chosen safety. My father could have married a general's daughter. My mother could have remained with her people. Instead, they chose love, knowing it brought risk. My father always said, 'The frontier takes much, but it cannot take what you refuse to surrender.'" Her words settled over Logan like a physical weight. For years he had surrendered connection before the frontier could take it from him, a preemptive surrender that had left him more alone than the wilderness ever could. "Your father sounds like a wise man," Logan finally said. "He was," Elena agreed, "and he would say that your belief that isolation keeps you safe is a lie you tell yourself to avoid the risk of caring again." Logan stared at her, startled by her directness. "You don't mince words, do you?" A small smile touched her lips. Apache directness, cavalry bluntness, I inherited both. As they settled in for the night, Logan taking first watch while Elena slept, he found himself watching the gentle rise and fall of her breathing, wondering how this woman he barely knew had seen through the armor he'd spent years constructing around himself. More troubling still was the realization that part of him wanted her too. The journey back to Whispering Pines took 4 days, driving the recovered cattle across rocky terrain and shallow river crossings. During those days, Logan discovered more about Elena than he had learned about anyone in years. She was educated, her father had insisted on it, sending her to a mission school where she excelled despite prejudice. She could read and write in English and Apache, knew mathematics and history, and had a knowledge of plants that had saved their bacon when Logan nearly made coffee with what turned out to be a toxic lookalike to coffee beans. "You would have spent the day with stomach cramps," she informed him dryly as she knocked the poisonous plant from his hands, "possibly the next day as well." But she was not just book smart. Elena could track game, predict weather from cloud patterns, and find water in seemingly barren landscape. She moved between white and Apache worlds with the grace of someone who had learned to navigate both without fully belonging to either. By the second day, Logan realized he was talking more than he had in years, telling her about his childhood in Kansas before his family moved west, about his mother's talent for baking bread that tasted like clouds, as his father used to say. "You smile when you talk about her," Elena observed as they sat by the campfire on the third night. "It suits you." Logan touched his face, surprised. "I don't smile much these days." "Perhaps you should," she replied simply, passing him a cup of coffee. Their fingers brushed, and Logan felt a jolt of awareness that had nothing to do with the heat of the metal cup. Their eyes met, and for a moment neither spoke. Elena broke the silence first. "Why bounty hunting, Logan? With your skills, you could have been anything." He considered the question seriously. "After my family died, I drifted, worked as a ranch hand, tried mining for a spell, nothing stuck. Then I tracked down a horse thief who'd stolen my employer's prize stallion. The sheriff gave me the reward money, said I had a knack for tracking. It seemed as good a path as any." "And it keeps you moving," Elena observed. "Never staying in one place long enough to put down roots." "Roots get torn up," Logan replied, more sharply than he intended. Elena didn't flinch at his tone. "Only if you plant them in shifting sand. The strongest trees grow on bedrock, Logan. They bend with the wind rather than breaking." "Poetic," he said, attempting to lighten the suddenly serious conversation. "Did you learn that in your books?" "I learned it from watching my parents," she answered. "They faced discrimination, poverty, danger, but they had each other. That was their bedrock." Logan had no reply to that. Instead, he stared into the fire, uncomfortably aware that Elena was challenging beliefs he'd held for nearly a decade, beliefs that had shaped his entire adult life. On the morning of the fourth day, they crested a rise that offered a view of whispering pines in the distance. The cattle, sensing the end of their journey, picked up their pace slightly. "We'll be there by midday," Logan noted, feeling a strange reluctance to complete the journey. Once they arrived, he would collect his bounty, Elena would return to her life, and he would ride on to the next job. The pattern of his existence would continue uninterrupted. The thought brought none of the comfort it once had. Elena rode beside him, her face thoughtful. "What will you do after you collect your reward?" Logan shrugged. "There's always another bounty. Always another criminal. Always another place to be that isn't home," she added quietly. Before Logan could respond, a rifle shot cracked through the air. One of the cattle dropped, and the herd startled, beginning to scatter. "Rustlers," Elena gasped, reaching for her rifle. Logan scanned the ridgeline, spotting 4 riders emerging from behind rocks. "Worse, that's Yates, and he's brought friends." They wheeled their horses, driving the cattle into a small box canyon for protection. Logan helped Elena dismount behind a large boulder. "Stay here," he instructed, checking his ammunition. Elena's expression hardened. "I will not hide while you fight my battles." "This isn't your battle," Logan argued. "Yates wants revenge on me as much as you. These cattle are under my protection, and so are you." "I do not recall asking for your protection," Elena replied, loading her own rifle with practiced efficiency. "I told you before, I can take care of myself." Another shot ricocheted off the rock near them, emphasizing the immediate danger. "Fine," Logan conceded, "but we do this smart. No heroics from either of us." Elena's smile was fierce. "Agreed." Yates and his men approached cautiously, spreading out to surround the canyon entrance. Logan counted 4 of them, including Yates, whose left arm was now in a sling from Elena's shot. "Xanders," Yates called out, "I told you this wasn't over. Send out the Apache witch, and maybe I'll let you live." "Charming offer," Logan muttered, positioning himself to get a clear shot. To Elena, he whispered, "I'll take the 2 on the left. Can you handle Yates and the other one?" Elena nodded grimly, with pleasure. Logan fired first, his shot striking one of Yates' companions in the chest. The man tumbled from his horse as the others scattered for cover. Elena's shot followed immediately, narrowly missing Yates but sending him diving behind a boulder. The gunfight intensified, with bullets pinging off rocks around them. Logan and Elena held their position, taking careful shots when opportunities presented themselves. Logan winged another of Yates' men, sending him retreating, but Yates and his remaining companion kept up steady fire. "We're pinned down," Logan observed grimly. "They're trying to wait us out." Elena studied the canyon walls. "There is another way. My people used these canyons for generations. There is a path up the back wall, narrow but passable. It would put one of us behind them. Logan considered this too dangerous if they spot you climbing. They will be focused on you, Elena interrupted. I can move silently. Give me covering fire when I signal. Before Logan could object further, Elena was moving, keeping low as she made her way toward the back of the small canyon. Logan wanted to call her back but knew it would only draw attention to her. Instead, he fired several shots in quick succession, keeping Yates and his man occupied. Through gaps in the rocks, he caught glimpses of Elena scaling the canyon wall, a precarious climb that had his heart in his throat with every handhold she sought. When she reached the top, she disappeared from view. Logan continued his sporadic covering fire, conserving ammunition while maintaining the illusion that both of them remained behind the boulder. Minutes stretched like hours. Then from the ridge above Yates' position, a flash of movement caught Logan's eye, Elena, signaling him with a mirror fragment from her pocket. Logan immediately opened fire, forcing Yates and his companion to duck lower behind their cover. From her position, Elena took careful aim and fired. Yates' remaining man cried out, clutching his leg as he fell. Confusion erupted as Yates realized they were being fired upon from behind. He spun, firing wildly toward the ridge where Elena had already changed position. In his panic, he exposed himself momentarily, long enough for Logan to take aim. His shot caught Yates in the side, spinning the man around. But Yates wasn't finished. He staggered to his feet, raising his pistol toward the ridge where Elena was now clearly visible as she sought a better angle. Elena, Logan shouted in warning. He fired again as Yates pulled his trigger. Both shots echoed simultaneously through the canyon. Yates collapsed, Logan's bullet finding its mark, but on the ridge, Elena stumbled backward, disappearing from view. Terror unlike anything Logan had felt in years surged through him. He broke cover, running toward the ridge, heedless of any remaining danger. Elena, he shouted, scrambling up the slope. Elena. He found her sitting against a rock, pressing a hand to her upper arm where blood seeped between her fingers. Just a graze, she assured him, though her face was pale. I lost my footing when it hit. Relief made Logan's legs weak. He dropped to his knees beside her, examining the wound with gentle hands. We need to bind this. You could have been killed. So could you, she countered, wincing as he tore a strip from his shirt to bandage her arm. Yet we are both alive. Logan's hands trembled slightly as he tied the makeshift bandage. When I saw you fall, he stopped, unable to continue. Elena reached up with her good hand, touching his cheek gently. You were afraid. Terrified, he admitted, the words scraping his throat raw. I can't remember the last time I was that scared. Fear comes from caring, she said softly. You cannot fear losing what you do not care about. Their eyes met, and Logan recognized the truth he'd been fighting since the moment he first saw her in the trading post. In just a few days, this remarkable woman had dismantled the walls he'd spent years building. We should get you to a doctor, he said, helping her to her feet, his arm supporting her waist. Elena leaned against him briefly. I thought you did not get involved with complications, Logan Xanders. Despite everything, Logan found himself smiling. I'm reconsidering my position on complications. In Whispering Pines, Logan's return with the stolen cattle and proof of Webb's demise caused quite a stir. The local ranchers were grateful, the sheriff impressed, and the telegraph operator busy sending messages to collect the substantial bounty. Dr. Simmons treated Elena's wound, declaring her lucky. An inch to the left and we'd be having a very different conversation, the elderly doctor informed them gravely. Keep it clean, change the bandages daily, and no strenuous activity for at least a week. As they left the doctor's office, Logan found himself reluctant to part from Elena's company. They stood awkwardly on the boardwalk, the afternoon sun casting long shadows down the dusty street. I should see you home, Logan offered. Elena smiled. I live in a small cabin outside town near the creek. It is not far. They walked in comfortable silence, leading their horses. The events of the past days had created a bond between them that words seemed inadequate to express. When they reached the small but well-maintained cabin nestled among cottonwoods by the creek, Logan found himself searching for reasons to stay. I should check your wood supply, he found himself saying. Winter will be here soon enough. Elena's eyes sparkled with amusement. My wood supply is adequate, but I would not refuse help in splitting some logs. Tomorrow, perhaps, when you've rested. Tomorrow, Logan agreed quickly. One day stretched into 3, then a week. Logan found reasons to remain in Whispering Pines, helping Elena with chores her injured arm made difficult, taking odd jobs from local ranchers, repairing her roof before the autumn rains. Each evening they would sit on her small porch, watching the sunset paint the desert in golds and crimsons. They talked of books, of history, of childhood memories and adult dreams. Logan found himself speaking of possibilities he hadn't considered in years, a ranch of his own, perhaps, a place to put down those roots Elena had mentioned. On the 10th day, as they shared a simple supper of rabbit stew, Elena asked the question that hung between them. "When will you leave, Logan? Surely there are bounties waiting elsewhere." Logan set down his spoon, meeting her eyes across the small table. "I've been thinking about that." And her expression remained carefully neutral. "The sheriff offered me a deputy position," Logan said the town could use a man with my experience. Hope flickered in Elena's eyes. "And what did you tell him?" "I told him I needed to think about it." Logan took a deep breath. "I'm not sure the town's ready for a deputy who spends his evenings calling on a half-Apache woman." Elena's chin lifted slightly. "I have endured talk before." "It's not you I'm worried about," Logan admitted. "It's whether I'm worthy of someone like you. I've spent years running, Elena, years avoiding anything that mattered because I was afraid to lose it." "And now?" she asked softly. "Now I'm more afraid of losing something I never had the courage to claim." Logan reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I can't promise it will be easy. People will talk, some will disapprove. But if you're willing to take that chance, I'd like to stay here with you." Elena turned her hand in his, lacing their fingers together. "My father once told me that courage isn't the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something is more important than fear. What we could build together, Logan, that is more important than fear." Logan stood, drawing her to her feet and into his arms. Her face tilted up to his, and all the doubts, all the years of isolation, seemed to fall away as their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. 1 year later, Logan stood nervously outside the small church in Whispering Pines, adjusting the collar of his new shirt for the dozenth time. Beside him, Sheriff Barnes chuckled. "Settle down, Deputy Xanders." "You look fine." "I feel like I'm choking," Logan muttered, tugging at the tie that seemed determined to strangle him. "Marriage will do that to a man," the sheriff observed dryly. "But it's worth it." Inside the church, Logan knew Elena was preparing with the help of Martha Johnson, the storekeeper's wife who had become a close friend over the past year. The entire town had turned out for the occasion, along with a significant number of Elena's Apache relatives. Not everyone had accepted their relationship. There had been whispers, disapproving glances, and a few openly hostile encounters. But there had also been surprising support, from the sheriff who valued Logan's work as deputy, from the storekeeper who appreciated Elena's translations when trading with Apache customers, from ordinary townsfolk who judged people by character rather than heritage. When the small organ began to play and the church doors opened, Logan forgot how to breathe. Elena walked toward him in a simple white dress adorned with traditional Apache beadwork, a perfect blend of her dual heritage. Her dark hair was adorned with small white flowers, and her eyes never left his as she approached. The ceremony was brief, combining elements of both cultures. They exchanged simple gold bands that Logan had saved for months to purchase. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, the church erupted in cheers from settler and Apache alike. Later, at the celebration held on the grounds of their newly built ranch house outside town, Logan found a moment alone with his bride beneath the cottonwood trees. "Happy Mrs. Xanders?" he asked, still marveling at the reality of calling her his wife. Elena's smile was radiant. "Extremely, Mr. Xanders, though I think your Apache pronunciation still needs work." Logan laughed, drawing her close. "I have a lifetime to practice." As the sun set over their land, 40 acres purchased with Logan's saved bounty money and Elena's inheritance from her father, they stood together watching their guests celebrate. Apache dancers performed traditional ceremonies while local musicians prepared to play for dancing later. "Your father was right," Logan said softly, "about the bedrock." Elena leaned against his shoulder. "He would have liked you." "I hope so," Logan replied. I think about what you told me that first night by the campfire, about how the frontier takes much, but cannot take what we refuse to surrender. He turned to face her fully. I surrendered too easily before, gave up on connection, on love, on home, all because I was afraid to lose them. And now, Elena asked, her hand coming to rest over his heart. Now I know some things are worth the risk, Logan answered, covering her hand with his. This, you, our home, our future, this I will never surrender. As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, Logan Xanders held his wife close, no longer a solitary bounty hunter, but a man firmly rooted in love, in community, in home. The frontier had taught him its harshest lessons about loss, but Elena had taught him its greatest truth, that the courage to love again was the most powerful force in the West. Together they faced the future, two souls from different worlds who had found in each other the belonging they had both sought, proving that on the wild frontier, love could indeed flourish in the most unlikely soil when tended with courage and faith. The West might be wild, but their love had tamed it, creating a sanctuary amid the wilderness where both their hearts could finally call home.